Yes. So, I'm going to continue descending into madness in search of wisdom. In vain. This is all in vain. So eat, drink, and be merry. Eat, drink, and be merry, friends. It's all in vain. Okay. And I'm switching gears. I'm completely switching gears. Everything ties in. Everything is. Maybe I can explain that as I go into this. So this is I'm revisiting my storyboard. I'm revisiting the storyboard here. One of the reasons is because I've found some fuck, I don't even know how to explain it, so I'll just get right into it. So we're talking about like sex magic rituals. That's what this video is going to be about. Sex magic rituals and how it ties into the storyboard. So I've been hearing a lot about sex magic rituals while keeping up with the P-Diddy thing. The P-Diddy thing to me is I think it's important. Yeah. It's an important thing to keep an eye on anyway. And so, well, I mean, when the Epstein thing dropped, shortly after that was when the COVID shit dropped. So history repeats itself. So now this P-Diddy thing dropped, which is like almost identical to the Epstein thing, and what came after shortly after the Epstein thing, COVID. So now P-Diddy drops, and if history repeats itself, something's coming. Something like COVID, whether it's phase 2 or whatever, is coming. I mean, that's not like that's just more if you look at like history repeating itself and stuff. You know, there's a chance. So there's reasons like this to keep an eye on the P-Diddy story. And so I kind of do, you know, just to see what's the official story, like what are we being told here. And a lot of the alleged official story with P-Diddy, you know, involves like basically say like a lot of these guys that are doing this crazy shit. It's Satanism. It's not just a bunch of people, you know, that are getting perverted, and you know, especially when you start talking about child sex trafficking. And the more that this story is getting dug into with P. Diddy, the more is coming out about like sex magic rituals and ritualistic, you know, dark shit. You know? So I want to talk about that because this is what I'm talking about. This is what concerns me so much about the story that I'm trying to flesh out in the storyboard is there is a lot of links to the same stuff. You know, like if you think of it like this, if this stuff is happening like with with P. Diddy scale type stuff with why would you not think that would be happening, you know, with just people that aren't famous, that aren't like famous people, that are dabbling in fucking like magic? Why do you think that like P. Diddy and these people would be dabbling in the dark arts of like sex magic rituals involving children and all kinds of creepy weirdo shit like that? I mean, if you're at all following the story of P. Diddy, it's all about all kinds. It's like we're talking about murder, rape, you know, ritual sacrificial murder, ritual sacrificial child sex trafficking, like crazy shit. Like this is not. And you know, we've been hearing these stories like with Pizzagate and all this. It's all the same people, the Clintons, you know, whatever. Never mind the politics, or whatever. I guess you decide. I don't know. Oh my. So talking about sex magic rituals. Well, that's so going back to this storyboard and this story with this girl. You know, I find out that she's a self-proclaimed witch. I didn't know for like we lived together for 3 years, and she kept it a secret from me, and she was interacting with a bunch of other self-proclaimed witches, and not Wiccans, not like where they love the earth and the, you know, the the code of Wicca is you know, do no harm and blessed be. That's the what do they call that? The rule of three in Wicca. The rule of three is do no harm and blessed be. Well, Wicca, I'm not talking about Wicca. I'm talking about witches. I'm talking about people that are intentionally dabbling in dark magic. And so that's what she was. Self-proclaimed. All behind I didn't know. So I'm going into this storyboard to flesh it out. And, you know, the first section is called the event, which is basically like part 2. Then I go to the pre-event, which is everything that happened up to the event. And that's where all these clues are. There's all these clues. Like I talk about, she has a Necronomicon tattoo, like this size, right here on her back. And if you don't understand like Necronomicon, the Necronomicon symbol is like is regarded as one of the most renowned like satanic symbols. Like people that are heavily involved in Satanism and in the dark arts and shit, like they're all about the Necronomicon symbol. It's one of the main staples of you know, the dark arts and stuff. You know, probably more so than the upside down pentagram itself. But then, you know, you'll see people who have upside down, or they have pentagram tattoos, and that don't necessarily mean they're satanic, but you know, whatever. But anyways, it was really odd. She had a huge, like, Necronomicon tattoo. Anyways, but as I go into the pre-event, I talk about when I first started getting to know her and her husband. I mean, they weren't technically married, but whatever. Like, they were openly talking about how they were involved in sex magic rituals and shit, and they were involved in all this stuff. And again, I always attributed it to kind of like Wicca, people just trying to get in touch with spirituality, and it's weird, it's cuckoo, but I never really connected the dots. Like, but when you listen to these P-Diddy stories about coming out about P-Diddy, that's what it was. They were involved in sex magic rituals and you know, creepy shit, like the dark arts, you know. And so as I'm watching this P-Diddy stuff start to come out, you know, these reoccurring themes keep coming up with P-Diddy is like sex magic rituals. Well, that's what this chick was into with her and her husband. You know, and it's all about child sex trafficking. Well, the weird thing is if you go into my pre-event part of the story in the storyboard, they had like one person that they were friends with, and he ended up being had several sex offender warrants, including attempting to solicit sex from a minor. So he's basically like into child sex trafficking shit. And he had been stalking her and started stalking me. I mean, which is like whatever. These all seem like minor details, but when you start hearing stories about like P-Diddy and sex trafficking and sex magic rituals and you know, it's kind of, dude, I really think that she was involved in something on a smaller scale. And so some other stuff like about this small town out in the middle of nowhere that this took place. I was hearing years prior, even before I even met her, people were saying there's a witch cult in this town. There's a like secret society of witches, a cult of them in this town. Which again, I always attributed to like, you know, Wiccans, and who cares? Wiccans, they roll around in the dirt and hug trees and, you know, love nature, and their rule is, you know, is the rule of three in Wicca is do no harm and blessed be. So I never attributed it to, you know, like dark witches, like evil witches, like people that intentionally practice evil. I always just would attribute it to Wiccans. So anyway, so no, there's a long-standing, you know, thing going around that this town has a cult of witches, like real witches, dark black witches and shit. Okay. Again, these all might seem like just whatever, you know, just this is all speculation. Okay, well here's another thing. In the desert, this is all known for camping. And during the winter, this place will get like almost 1 million people, and they all camp in the desert. And so you have these different areas of where people have been camping out here for years. Like this has been going on for decades, where every winter there'll be almost 1 million people out here. Okay, well there's one area in the desert that has been designated the magic circle. And the magic, it's called the magic circle, and it's in a certain section in the desert where people camp. And people that camp at the magic circle, they're all nudists. They're all nudists. And so just like you may not be familiar with the Necronomicon symbol, and that it's like, dude, that is pure fucking satanic fucking like evil shit. That's all. Anybody that's into pure evil and is really trying to conjure demons and Satan and is really interested in drinking blood and sacrificing babies, like Necronomicon is one of the Necronomicon symbol is iconic in that culture. Okay. And so, like, you may not know what a magic circle is. Well, I would suggest you use Brave, the Brave search engine over Google. You know, but whatever. Just do a search of what is the magic circle. I just did one right now, and like that, you know, there's only 2 or 3 things that the magic circle could be, and AI explains the 2 or 3 things that the magic circle is. Well, in the number 1 is it's a ritualistic practice that witches and people into all this crazy shit do. It's a magic circle where they designate a circle, and it has a protective energy and all this stuff. So this is all more witchcraft and stuff, right? And well, that's where all the nudists hang out. I mean, so like sex magic, you know, P-Diddy, sex magic, you know, all this kind of stuff. Well, it's similar. That's where the, you know, nudists hang out, is at the magic circle. And this town has a long-standing story that there is a black witch cult out here. Okay, so then you got the magic circle out here, which has been out here forever, and that's where all the nudists go, you know. Okay, now this guy that was their only friend, this gal and his husband, for lack of a better term, they had this one guy who was their friend, and he was stalking her, and he was super creepy. And then he was exposed that he had several sex offender warrants, including attempting to solicit sex from a minor. So he's into child sex trafficking shit. Well, guess where he lived? The magic circle. He lived at the magic circle. So these are all little clues, and they all just kind of sprinkled throughout the pre-event story when I'm doing this storyboard. The event is I'm fleshing everything out from the event itself. So the storyboard starts with the event. I finished the event as best I could. Then I started fleshing out the pre-event, which is 3 years of all this crazy shit that happened before the event itself. and all these things like the Necronomicon tattoo, you know, her association with the magic circle, and this guy who is a into child sex trafficking shit, and you know, and that her and her husband were openly would openly talk about how they were into sex magic rituals, and they were into all kinds of other shit. They had to, you know, the Aleister Crowley tarot, and they were all into all this stuff, and they manufactured DMT, and they gave DMT to their son for his 7th birthday, you know, all that, like, so, you know, there's all these little things, but as the pre-event gets fleshed out more and more, they might seem like trivial nothing, like that she has that tattoo, that she has other similar tattoos besides that one, that her and her husband are into sex magic and Aleister Crowley tarot and astral projection and numerology and you know, all this weird shit, and they manufactured DMT and blast off on DMT. They gave DMT to their 7-year-old son for his birthday. They're hanging out with this, only have one friend who's a total weirdo, ends up being a stalker that's stalking her and starts stalking me. And he lives out in the magic circle, when the magic circle is this campground for fucking nudists. That's all. That's the whole point of the magic circle is nudists. And it just goes on and on. Like, these details just continuously, never ending details just keep piling up and piling up. And so going back to this P-Diddy story, like, that's what as this P-Diddy story continues to get fleshed out, it's more and more like the reoccurring theme of sex magic rituals, and that they were into all this eyes wide shut kind of shit. Same thing that I'm talking about. What I'm trying to explain is that this is just the same kind of insanity, only on a smaller scale, in this little tiny town out in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere, and you know, I really do want to finish this storyboard story, but it's a lot, and it's very unbelievable, because I'm talking about, like, you know, sex magic rituals. Like, I'm talking about the level of ritual that people like P-Diddy and shit are into. You know, that guy who was a friend of, the only friend that they had, he was over all the time at their place alone with those 2 children and her psycho husband. And that dude is a total, like, he's all into all this magic and all shit. And where at the time I didn't really think nothing of it, but until the event happened. Once the event happened and all kinds of stuff started getting exposed, including that she was a self-proclaimed witch and had been hiding it from me for the whole time we lived together for 3 years. And not a Wiccan. I mean, like, Satanism. She's like self-proclaimed Satanist. Black witch. And that there was a murder there was a dead body surrounding her and all of her witch friends, and you know, like, and that the murder took place, it was October, his death was October 20th. So the guy's death in question in this whole storyboard, his death was on October 20th of 2022. Okay? When the arson or / fire, depending on your opinion, that happened to me, that was October either 13th or 15th. You know, these patterns of ritual, like black magic ritualistic behavior, are just like piling up and piling up. And, you know, but this is hours and hours of explaining all this. I mean, I didn't see it while it was happening, until the murder and the fire and the death threat and everything just all happened in 2 weeks. including her being exposed as a self-proclaimed satanic witch and all this stuff. And then the Necronomicon tattoo starts to make sense. Then, reflecting back to when she was still with that psycho guy and they were talking about how they were into sex magic rituals, it all makes sense that their only friend was that guy who's a stalker and a sex offender who was soliciting sex from minors, lived in the Magic Circle campground. Like, it's a big area. It's like it's acres. It's called the Magic Circle. That's where all the nudists hang out and all this stuff. It all starts to tie together. And that when I confronted him because he was stalking me, I confronted him, and the first thing he said was, "Now that I know where you live," and before he could say anything else, I started yelling at him like, "Fuck you, you stupid piece of shit, get the fuck out, I'm calling the cops." Then he yells back, "You don't even know what kind of shitstorm you stirred up." Now, in the moment, that just seems like that's what some dumb fuck like him would say in that situation. But after the event happens, and then you start looking back at everything, including him, all of his history of being a sex offender with the ties to soliciting children for sex, and that he stayed at the Magic Circle with all the nudists, and that there's all this magic, like this reoccurring theme of like sex magic rituals and involving DMT and it's like, come on, dude, it's starting to pile up. Like, come on, bro. And then like P-Diddy stories come out, and it's the same thing. They're talking about the same things: sex magic rituals and weird things involving children and soliciting sex from minors and ritual, black magic ritual type things, magic circles, people being like nudity, all this, just like P-Diddy parties. Everybody was just naked and fucking, and fucking animals, and there were children involved, and I'm sure DMT, all kinds of drugs. They was all a big freak fest. Was like drugs, DMT, manufacture that shit. Fuck it. He probably had manufactured DMT labs in every other room in his mansion. All this stuff. It's all the same thing that I'm talking about. Only it's just a small scale. I'm talking about a little tiny town out in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere. But why is it that it's got all these same characteristics? Magic circles, sex magic rituals, fucking DMT, stuff involving child sex, weird shit, and sex offenders that are living in the magic circle, Necronomicon tattoos, and then, it's like, come on, dude. How much of this, and I'll do the whole story, but it's like, how much do you have to hear before you start to kind of look at like the point that I'm making? I'm trying to allow you to decide for yourself, but at the same time, sometimes I feel like I gotta nudge it along. Like, it's like, dude, look at the story of P. Diddy right now. One of the reoccurring themes that keeps coming up over and over again is sex magic rituals. Well, that's what they were involved in. Sex magic implies like Satanism and witchcraft, Luciferianism. Well, that's what a Necronomicon symbol is all about. And these other symbols, like her monster drink tramp stamp. The monster drink, you all know about the new, when you look at the monster drink, and on top of that, everything that she was into is all like P. Diddy kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, she's into all this trendy brain dead shit like P. Diddy and, this dumb shit, and like Pokemon, and like, how weird is that? She's a 34-year-old adult and she's wearing a Pokemon backpack and is blasting off on DMT and is all into sex magic rituals and giving DMT to her child and rocking Necronomicon tattoos. Her friends live at the Magic Circle nudist colony, and they happen to be like sex offenders and involved in child sex trafficking. And like they're threatening me, like I'm getting threats, like, you don't know what kind of shitstorm you stirred up. Well, maybe it's because she was involved in a massive fucking cult at the Magic Circle with the nudists and the witch cult, black witch cult out here, and that explains all of this. It starts to explain itself, especially when That's the pre-event. Then look at the event itself. The event itself is like, that's everything exploding. I mean, it's all, the Wiccan brooms are hanging from the ceiling, and the bondage straps pulled out from under the bed, and the death threats, and the exposing of the murder investigation that they're all she and all her friends are the main suspects of. And then you look at like the dates of when they do when they do satanic rituals. October 22nd is when the guy died. The fire, when that it was arson. It was arson, dude. And it was like October 13th or October 15th. I can confirm the date. All I have to do is look it up. I mean, how much more of this is, so anyways, it's just an interesting thing to consider as far as this story involving murder, death threats, and arson and all this stuff.